Oh, best time of the offseason. FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal with us right off the top. It's the Inside Scoop. Ken, let's get to the Yankees. Were you surprised that they ended up the winner of the Max Fried sweepstakes? And what else do you think they have up their sleeves?
A little surprised only because the rotation is a strength of this team, but at the same time, and you've heard this from others as well, I'm sure, when you're losing the offense, you're losing with Soto. It makes sense to pivot to a pitching defense model. Not that they're going to be a bad offensive team necessarily, but they're going to score fewer runs. So if you're going to score fewer runs, that enables you, or it may persuade you to try to prevent runs at a better rate. And when you get freed, now you have the ability to trade a starting pitcher, and they could do some things. They could trade Stroman, they could trade Nestor Cortez Jr., and maybe they could even trade American League Rookie of the Year Luis Hill. I just reported, and Joel Sherman reported this morning as well, that Hill could be a guy that you use in a Kyle Tucker trade if the Yankees are willing to do that. Now, to go to the next step, Kyle Tucker, a trade like that would be the equivalent of the Juan Soto trade last year in terms of getting a guy for only one more year of club control. And the Yankees might not want to do that again. But at the same time, Kyle Tucker is, like Juan Soto, an elite player, a different player than Soto, but one of the top 10 players in the game. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the Yankees leverage their pitching depth if they do it all, and I expect that they will, as well as whatever else they might do to improve their offense. They've been in talks with Christian Walker at first base. They've got some other things that they can do as well. If Walker doesn't work out, there are other first basemen on the market. They are in a position now where they can maneuver in any number of ways, and they're exploring every possible option. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this matrix unfolds.
Is this indicative of the Yankees really wanting Fried over a Corbin Burnes if they're in this market, or is it possibly the price that Corbin Burnes is going to be asking based on what they paid for Fried?
They paid a high price for Fried. It's the biggest contract for a left-handed pitcher in the game's history. So it seems to me this was a clear preference for Fried. And yes, Burnes is likely going to get more. We all know that. But Fried to them is a really good athlete, a Gold Glove winner, a guy with a great pickoff move, a guy who on the mound does more than just pitch, right? Burnes, on the other hand, is a guy who allows stolen bases like crazy. Now, the Yankees have a lot of other things that they're considering when they look at these two guys, but that's got to be one of them. One of the problems with this team last year, despite them making the World Series, was their lack of playing the game in a proper way. And when you can't hold runners, that's one of the things that we're talking about. So I'm sure Fried's defense and his ability to hold runners appeal to them. And as well, he is one of the better pitchers in this sport right now.
Ken, how soon do you think a Burnes deal is or how close maybe? Because the pitching market honestly has been on fire, right? Pitchers, boom, 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 boom. Only really one position player, the big one, Juan Soto. But for pitchers, it is like, man, every time you look up, boom, here's the free agent pitcher list. And you look at it, I mean, a bunch of the top guys are off the list. And Sasaki will be off soon enough as soon as he gets to the end of his posting time. But, man, how quick do you think a Corbin Burnes deal can come together?
Quick. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happened today, AJ. I don't know that. I don't have any inside information, but the Red Sox are on tilt right now. They need to do something. The Blue Jays, they acquired Andrés Giménez yesterday, and that was a big move for them. He's a $20 million a year player on average annual value, but they still want to do more, and I expect that they're going to make a strong push for Corbin Burnes. The Orioles are in there. The Giants might be in there, so nothing would surprise me really as far as the timing, and I would expect that, yes, if not by the end of the day, certainly by the end of the week.
Hey, Ken, what did you think of Nathan Eovaldi signing back with the Rangers for a healthy $25 million a year over 3 years, and the Jake Burger trade not lasting long with the Marlins?
I love both those moves. And first of all, priority number one for the Rangers was Nathan Eovaldi. They wanted to get that done. They were in on Fried, and they made a strong bid for him, but ultimately it didn't happen, and then they pivoted right to Eovaldi, and they got him. So that's a good deal for them. He's certainly a guy that they know well, a guy that we all know well. He is one of the game's harder workers. He is one of the game's elite postseason performers, and someone that players really admire and respect a great deal. So that's a good signing for them. And as far as Jake Burger, I love that move for the Rangers. They were looking for more offense. They didn't love the way their offense performed last year, didn't hit fastballs well enough. And Berger is a guy, 29 home runs, back-to-back seasons. He certainly should help in that regard. So for the price that they paid, 3 minor leaguers, guys who are a little bit away, might never make the majors, to me it was a terrific move and another curious move by the Marlins, who don't seem to want to play winning baseball at the major league level. Maybe a double-A they'll like their team. I can't imagine what their major league team's going to look like.
No, we know it's going to be Sandy Alcantara and 25 other guys.
Yeah,
probably
it's not looking good.
Not good. But, Ken, what about the Red Sox? Where are the Red Sox in all this? We keep hearing, oh, they're in on Fried, they're in on Soto, they're blah, 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 blah. And then you hear that, they disagree on players. The front office disagrees on who they should. What the hell is going on in Beantown? I thought they brought in Theo to help Breslow, to help Henry, to help Sam Kennedy, to help try to get a team that could compete with the Yankees and everyone. What's going on in Beantown?
Well, first of all, that was a really interesting report yesterday by Mass Live, Sean McAdam, in which he said Cora and team president Sam Kennedy wanted to sign Alex Bregman, but that Breslow, the general manager or president of baseball operations, was opposed. So that's one thing that they've been involved with, but their focus is pitching. And I would expect they're going to make a big run at Corbin Burnes. I don't know how they cannot, because they have raised expectations with their pursuit of Soto, with their pursuit of Fried, their talk about Bregman. And now if they come away 0 for 4 with those guys, that's not going to sit well among their fan base, which is already ticked off after their half-baked, full-throttle offseason a year ago. So I do expect them to do something big. I still do. But until they do it, this talk is going to persist about, hey, what are they actually up to? Are they real? And so far, they haven't been real as far as getting a player and getting a contract done.
So is this indicative of the new front office that's in there? Craig Breslow's second season that they can't close the deal? Or is it the same old ownership that doesn't allow ex-GM to close a deal?
Difficult to say, Eric. I don't know for sure. I don't know the inner workings and the dynamics there. But Breslow has actually acknowledged that they're going to have to get uncomfortable. They're going to have to do things that make them uncomfortable. That's free agency. And Andrew Friedman once famously said, if you try to be rational on every free agent, you're going to lose every free agent. Something to that effect. So they're clearly going to need to do something here. And whether it's ownership needing to step up more, whether it's Breslow needing to be more decisive and proactive, I'm not sure the combination of those factors and the exact dynamic going on. But bottom line is they need to get some more players. They need pitching. And Fried would have been perfect because they need a left-hander in the rotation. And Burnes would be fine too. He's a great pitcher, of course. But I'm anxious to see how this turns out for them.
When there's a big signing. Oh, I'm sorry, Scott.
Sorry, Kratz. My bad. Go, bud. Go, bud.
When there's a big signing like Max Fried, especially since it's a left-hander, the top pitcher available essentially on the market is another left-hander. Do you hear more rumblings right away after that? Because there's teams that missed out on Max Fried. If we think it was the A's, whatever, the Rangers. Do you hear more rumblings quickly about a Garrett Crochet? Because his value just went, AJ said it yesterday in our post-trade talk, his value just went higher than it already was. It was already astronomical.
His value has already been high. Yeah, that's right. And I didn't hear increased talk last night. Doesn't mean there wasn't. I don't hear everything. But he's going to get moved. And what's really going to be interesting is whether some of these other starting pitchers get moved as well. And Dylan Cease is a guy the Athletics' Dennis Lynn wrote about today. I'm sure the Padres do not want to move him, but they've got their own payroll questions and the necessity perhaps to juggle things a little bit. So that might be a guy in play. And I'm still waiting to see what the Orioles do. We're talking a lot about the Red Sox. The Orioles need starting pitching too. They need to replace Corbin Burnes. Now, are they going to re-sign Burnes? I would think that's probably unlikely. Can they trade for a Crochet, a Cease, or Jesus Luzardo? So I don't know who it would be, but they need to do something. And again, it's really interesting because these three AL East teams, Orioles, Red Sox, Blue Jays, are all kind of on tilt, as are the Yankees for that matter. Now, they've got their pitching addressed, but they've got to address their offensive needs.
Hey, Ken, let's finish with the Guardians because they pull off the Andrés Giménez deal, and then Spencer Horwitz from the Blue Jays goes over to the Pirates. So what did you think about all of that? And the push forward for me is I think maybe this clears enough money for them not have to move Josh Naylor, because I feel like that would be more of the PR disaster. They love him out there.
They do, and they're going to listen on Naylor. They're going to listen on Lane Thomas because both guys are potential free agents, and they listen on guys like that. That's just how they operate. As a small market team, they make hard decisions, and the trade of Giménez was one of those hard decisions. Now, when I first saw the initial trade, the one for Horwitz and the minor league outfielder, I thought, what are they doing? But after they traded for Luis Ortiz from the Pirates and the two minor league left-handers, it began to make more sense for me because they always want pitching, right? They have had a shortage the last couple of years. They were great before that. But now they've re-signed Bieber. They've got Ortiz. They've got the two kids that maybe they'll develop. This is one of the best pitching development teams in the game. And with Giménez, he's owed something like $96.5 million over the next 5 years. He's an elite defensive player. His value alone from his defense justifies almost that cost. But last 2 seasons, offensively, he has not been very good. And their fear was that a third straight season of that, with his salary starting to rise, they weren't going to be able to move him. So now they open up second base for perhaps Travis Bazzana, their number 1 draft pick, later in the season. And they do have a little bit more flexibility. Now, I'm told they can keep Naylor and they can keep Thomas. They don't have to move them for payroll purposes, but they're always going to be listening. And I would not be surprised to see them do anything because yesterday, that was a move that came out of nowhere. I don't know that anyone expected them to trade Andrés Giménez. We've been talking about Naylor and Thomas for quite some time now. So with the Guardians, best to just keep your eyes open and make sure you're paying attention.
Okay, Ken, last one real quick. I know you have to go report on something, but is there a move we haven't heard about yet, or have we heard about all of them? Is there a crazy move that behind the scenes might happen that nobody has heard about, or is because of social media, everything is out there already?
AJ, there are always moves that are possible that we haven't heard about. And anything I've heard about, anything anyone else hears about, we're going to report. But I often wonder what the percentage of what we hear as reporters and what actually is being talked about, what those different percentages are. I sometimes think we hear about 20, 30% of what actually is discussed, maybe even less than that. So there are always things under discussion. The Kyle Tucker thing is really interesting right now. We've got a story up right now, Chandler Rome and I, about what they are looking for from the Cubs, the Astros. And with the Bregman scenario, the Astros are a team to watch, but I am quite certain there are moves going on that, like the Giménez move yesterday, we just have no idea about.
Ken, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the finish line. We'll talk to you later this week.
Thanks, guys.
That's the Inside Dish. Ken